Elaine, thank you so much for joining me for this Wedding Pro Life Story session. I'm going to ask you to kick off with telling us who you are, where you are, what is your business? Give us a little overview of who is Elaine.
Okay, so yeah, if you haven't seen by my screen, I'm Elaine Cripps and I run Pink Wedding Venues, which is UK's only LGBT plus focus wedding venues collection. I've gone from directory to collection because I think collection sounds nicer than a directory. So yeah, I'm based in West Sussex, but I cover the whole of the UK. So any venues that want to feature with us, we go from Scotland, the top end of Scotland, to down the bottom of Cornwall. And yeah, it's all about pushing out really beautiful venues to same-sex couples to take away that fear, if you like, or worry that they can just approach them and know they'll be welcomed with open arms.
And I'm going to call out the elephant in the room immediately, because in my eyes, I feel like they should know they're going to be welcome to every venue. But that obviously isn't always the case, or people don't feel that way. And that's why you saw this need in the market.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I mean, nowadays, obviously, life is much better, and legally, for a first point, everybody has to be welcomed and accepted.
Yeah.
But we do hear stories still, and thankfully, fewer and further between. But we are still hearing stories where couples are just not made to feel welcome with their inquiry. Things change, the venue would change the dates, all this kind of stuff. So, and I think as well, a lot of same-sex couples, especially of my generation, have grown up with in fear of being out, if you like, and being as open as they probably could be. And so there is that kind of apprehension about approaching businesses. And that question often gets asked to venues and all wedding businesses: do you mind we're a same-sex couple? And when that comes about, then there's obviously still a need for it, when people are asking if you mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And so obviously when couples come onto your collection, they know that those venues are going to be super welcoming, and they don't even have to ask the question. So how did you get involved in the wedding industry? Was this something you've always been dreaming of since you were 5 years old, or how did this happen?
Far from it, Kelly. Far from it. I was going to be a mounted policewoman when I was 5 years old. That's what I was going to do: ride horses all day long and be a policewoman. That's exactly what my dream was to do. And I went nowhere near the police. Nothing like that happened. So I massively fell into all of this. Initially, my first kind of job, if you like, I was working in X-ray at the local hospital, and which is, to be fair, a brilliant job. I absolutely loved it. But as we know, the NHS didn't pay very well. So my partner and I got together. We bought a house. I was working 3 jobs. I was getting home at 1, 2 in the morning just to pay my bills. And I thought, this is crazy. So I saw a job advertised for some telesales work, which was nothing like I wanted to get into, but the salary was really good. Kind of thought it'd be a stopping point for now until I kind of work out what I'm doing with my life. So went for this job, got the job, and as it happened, I was just quite good at it, and I got promoted through the business. It was a big publishing company, which was industrial and commercial, nothing to do with weddings at all. It was talking to Fred in his shed about making his nuts and bolts and this kind of thing. And I ended up being national sales manager for this publishing company, and I just love I just love just talking to people. I'm not a typical salesperson. I just like chatting to people and telling everything about what's going on. So roll back to 1996, give you an idea on how old I am now. My partner and I, when we were together, we wanted to have some kind of ceremony which would show our commitment to each other, really, almost like a wedding. But this was this is 9 years before even civil partnership had become legalized. So we were kind of like, well, how are we going to make this happen? It's obviously going to be a kind of setup, but we're in West Sussex. We're about half an hour from Brighton. And we thought there's bound to be some venues in Brighton that will allow us to have some kind of ceremony, invite all our friends and family, and have it like our wedding day. This is pre-internet, so we were picking up the good old yellow pages and thumbing our way through that and making loads of phone calls. And it quite soon became apparent that nobody was really willing for us to have this happen at their venue. And considering this is Brighton as well.
So listening, because obviously we would have people listening from America, Australia. Can you just give an overview of why you thought Brighton might be welcoming?
So Brighton is pretty much next to maybe Manchester and London. It's a top city in the UK for being, you know, gay friendly. I mean, it's a massive community down there. It's very liberal. It's very open. There's pride flags flying everywhere. You know, anything goes in Brighton, and everybody's very welcoming of anybody. But it turns out that when we wanted to have our blessing, no, they weren't. Anyway, we found eventually we found a very nice little community church run by a gay vicar who was just amazing. He was so lovely, and he said, of course we will. So we had effectively like a church service, if you like, hosted by a vicar, but it was called a blessing then. It was a rite of blessing, it was called then. So that was that. And then roll on a few years later, I was working at Reed, and then the internet took off, and everything was open to buy domain names. So I sat there and had this great idea about, wouldn't it be great if I could run a directory of wedding venues so that same-sex couples could not have and go through the same process that Shani and I went through. So I bought the domain name of Pink Wedding Venues. And it kind of sat dormant for many, many years because with Reed, my career was progressing. I was going up through and doing quite well there. And then I would say about 15 years ago, we got wind that our competitor in the UK for Reed had bought the company out and was merging up to London. And I'm not a commuter. I'm not getting on trains and going up to London. I'm a country bumpkin. I like my greenery. I'm not doing London. So I took redundancy, and I was so happy. We had like 100 people come out the room, 99 of which were crying. I was like, yay, happy Christmas, me. It was off. So I thought, well, actually, finally now I can do something with Pink Wedding Venues. And so we got the website developed, started sending out emails, went onto Twitter and connected with so many different wedding venues who all thought it was a fabulous idea and wanted to be a part of it. And that's how Pink Wedding Venues was born.
Amazing. Okay, so now we have this listing site directory collections of venues who come to you and put their venues on your website to show that they are super welcoming to same-sex couples. And as a business, so taking this from now a business perspective, what are some of the challenges you have maybe faced or had to overcome in building the business?
I think whilst I was at a big company, Reed Business Information, it was huge. It's global. It's Reed Elsevier is the parent company. So we had a marketing team, we had an accounts team, we had an admin team, we had legal team, we had everybody. All I had to do is focus on my customers. I had to do nothing else. Whereas now when I'm on my own, I've got to pick up and put my marketing hat on and put my accountancy hat on and put everything else on. So it was quite a steep learning curve, and I'm far from an expert on any of those things. But I just, you know, you do what you can where you can and learn on the job, I suppose.
I think so many wedding pros will hear you say that and breathe a sigh of relief going, oh my goodness, me too, right? Because lots of wedding pros have come out of big corporate companies where they had departments for everything.
Yeah.
And like it might be an amazing florist or an amazing photographer, but then all these other pieces of actually growing a business suddenly become quite challenging.
Huge, yeah.
Who have you got around you to support you in growing this business?
So I have my web guy, Lee, who's just amazing. He does, you know, he's just at a drop of a hat. He can drop things and get on with the site. And without him, I wouldn't have a business. So he's incredible. And obviously friends and family around me as well. And you know, people are seeing the site grow. They're seeing things develop. We've got a brand new site we're launching. Hopefully in the summer, it's coming on, which I'm so excited about. I've taken feedback from the venues that feature with me. I've looked at other amazing directories that kind of dominate the wedding industry, and kind of got ideas from them as well, and just listening to people. I think the key thing is just listening and taking feedback, whether it be positive or negative. In fact, negative is often more helpful than positive, because positive I think is an ego boost, but negative really makes you pull your pants up a little bit and sort yourself out and work out where the issues may well lie, so you can change things and grow.
And what's your favorite thing about what you do, your kind of day to day in a week? What's the piece that really lights you up?
Do you know, if I could just sit and look at wedding venues all day, some of the venues are stunning. You know, I used to look at my old job, industrial commercial, you get photos of their factories where they're turning out, you know, machine parts and aerospace parts and that, which you've got to be enthusiastic about to the customer, but they don't really do anything for me. But I can sit there and I can get lost. You know, people will send over their venue and I'll look at their venue and I'll get absolutely lost at looking all the images and just, yeah, beautiful. So I love that. I love speaking to people. I love just getting on the phone and just talking to these venues as well. That
It's
connection.
definitely something, you know, in my role when I'm going around venues that they always say to me, you know, how can we be more same-sex friendly? How can we let couples know that we're completely welcoming? And so it's brilliant that, you know, I can often send them to you, and that's a great way for them to go. And I imagine you feel when you're seeing couples finding their venues in an easy, enjoyable, no stress way, there must be a piece of you that kind of thinks back to your experience and is happy to have rectified it for others.
Just completely. I mean, you think when you get engaged and you want to get married, you start those plans. It's such an exciting time, and everyone's fired up with all the energy, and they want to, you know, plan their day out. And to be then met with, it doesn't even have to be a negative response, but if you've got a bad vibe about something, it just brings that energy down and it puts a bit of a dampener on it. But if the venues that are showing with me, I mean, we get it all the time. People always kind of emailing into us. We don't know what to do. We want to let it be seen that we're gay friendly, but we're worried about the terminology we're using. If we're over the top with it, we don't want to splash our whole website full of glitter and rainbows. But equally, you know, how do we do that? And I think because pink wedding venues is just focused and targeted towards same-sex couples, it's kind of a niche in the wedding world. And it's just that little gateway through for both venues to put their hands up and go, you know, come to us, and for couples to go, right, they're the venues that we want to look at.
Yeah. And what piece of advice might you give another wedding professional? So it might be something you've learned or heard or picked up, or it's in the forefront of your mind. If somebody said to you, what's the best piece of business advice that you've had, what would you say?
I think it's probably going back to the learnings. And, you know, you suddenly realize that you are on your own and you've got to learn this stuff. And as much as I can have a lot of resistance towards learning new things, I do know it's got to be done. And somebody once showed me when I was talking to somebody years ago now as a business advisor about, you know, how I don't know how to do this. And the one bit that she said to me in the end is put the word yet on the end. And I love that. And I think we get these blocks. I can't do that. But we didn't know how to walk when we were a year old. We didn't know how to feed ourselves. We don't know how to do it yet. So it will come. And you might not be an expert in the field, but I think Kelly's favorite saying is progression, not perfection. And
Progress, not perfection.
yeah, and that is brilliant term, you know, and if you're doing enough that it's kind of working, you can grow on those skills. But once you see things starting to work, it gives you the confidence to dive a bit deeper into what you're trying to find out.
I love that. Just add the word yet. And
Yeah,
I think there's so much tech around now and so much automation with, you know, the way our businesses grow. I think people do get a little bit stuck and think, well, I'm not techie, I can't do things. But as
yeah,
you say, yet, but we can
yeah.
add pieces. I love that.
And there'll be somebody out there who does know how to do it. Exactly. And the other thing is you'll find somebody who can, and you ask them. And you know, YouTube tutorials, experts in their field, you can look at them and just pick up some great tips from them.
And you're obviously part of our inner circle, the next level. If there are wedding businesses thinking about joining us, they're not sure if they'll learn anything or if they'll be able to grow their businesses inside our members area, what would you say to them?
Stop thinking about joining and do it. I would, you know, it's the best thing I've ever done. You know, I joined Kelly's inner circle. Inner circle, it sounds a bit mystical and magical. It is a bit mystical and magical because it is magic, the stuff you'll learn from it. But yeah, I joined, crikey, 4 or 5 years ago. I think it's pre-COVID. And you know, again, from somebody coming from industrial commercial backgrounds, I'm also a therapist. I'm a counsellor, a psychotherapist as well, and I had a hospital background. So I knew nothing about wedding industry, absolutely nothing about it. And I started following Kelly on I think it was on Facebook initially. I came across you and LinkedIn, and then I just thought this is a brilliant program. I'm just going to join it and I thought I'll give it a few months to see how I get on. And that was 4 or 5 years, maybe even 6 years ago. And I look back, I wouldn't be without it.
I love that. I love that. And Elaine, I know that you are really open to connecting with venues and suppliers. So if people want to connect with you, they're maybe interested in listing on your site. Where's the best way for them to do that, to message you?
So you can come through my website, and my email address is info@Pink Wedding Venues. That always comes straight through to me. Facebook is @Pink Wedding Venues. Instagram is @Pink Wedding Venues. Twitter is Pink Venues. And LinkedIn is Elaine Cripps, and then in brackets, Pink Wedding Venues as well. Venues, obviously happy to speak to you and get you featured. We'd love to feature you. If you want to attract same-sex couples, we would absolutely list you. But equally, I'm hoping to help anybody. So if you're a photographer or a DJ or anybody who just wants some advice, or me to scan over your copy, anything like that, happy to do that. So, reach out, and I'd be delighted to help.
Amazing. Elaine, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you as well. It's been really lovely. And you and Kelly's bit, and hopefully we'll see you in the group. It's a brilliant group. You'll get loads of advice from so many different people and learn heaps. And I mean heaps as well. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you in Kelly's group soon.